Hey, good morning, Bears, and welcome to our next episode of Call with Duty. We've got a great show for you here today. Where's my buddy Mackay? Let's bring him on.
Hey.
There's your ASB president, everybody.
Oh,
Good
yeah.
to see you, Mackay.
Yeah.
Hey, what are you hearing out there before we get rolling? Is there any questions that I can answer?
Well, as the big El Presidente, gonna be asking the questions from a variety of students. The big one that I've been getting is from students about what's it gonna look like timing-wise in getting back into the school. A lot of kids are really ready to just get back in the building, get out of this, kind of online-ness. So if you have any dates or any information that you can give us on that, that'd be nice.
Yeah, everybody's ready to get back, I got to tell you. Elementary school is going to start first. In fact, they're going to make a decision on Wednesday if they're going to go back grades kindergarten through second grade. So that'll be the first stage out. Then it'll go a little older elementary, then middle school, and then high school. It'll all be on a hybrid kind of a schedule. But I'm not looking at high school probably until semester time. So we'll probably roll into next semester, or a quarter rather, and then sometime in January, we're going to be able to make that switch. We have to stage behind all of the other schools because they try to bounce it out a little bit and keep everybody apart. But man, we're all hoping that we can get our sports going, our clubs, our activities, and in-person school in a hybrid. So we'll talk more about that at our next show, Mackay.
Gotcha.
Hey, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Tahoma is the second biggest high school in Washington State. And you're the president. You're the ASB president. What prompted you to run for that office?
Dang. Well, I've been doing ASB for a little bit. My freshman year, I just got to go back to that really quick. I think it was our To the Max president, Max Rash, I believe. Really awesome guy. I think I was sitting in choir one day and I was talking to all the other people. I'm like, hey, I'm not doing much. Should I just run for something? And I looked, a lot of schools, they have something against freshmen running because, they don't like for full ASB. So I looked at it, I checked it out. I'm like, wait, there's nothing in our rules for our school for not allowing freshmen to run. It's very inclusive for all grade levels. So I'm like, this is great. This is wonderful. So I kind of signed up as a joke for ASB secretary. I started really liking it and then really liking people and really wanted to make change. And then, just kind of snowballed from there. And Max, our president at the time, my freshman year, really just encouraged me to keep going. I took that encouragement. I just ran with it. I've been running with it ever since. Was ASB secretary, was ASB vice president last year. And I'm like, well, it is a fitting conclusion to run for president. And still, I want to make good change, help all of you people out there, hopefully that are watching this. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's cool. We're gonna talk about election stuff a little bit, and I know you're on our We the People team. But anybody out there that's got questions around elections, to our audience, to some of the students we're going to bring on here, make sure you just type them into the comment section there, and we'll definitely try to get out and answer your questions and get back to you. So our guests today are two government teachers and run our We the People program is Miss Gretchen Wulfing and Mr. Mike Seger.
Hey.
Hey, thanks for having us, you guys.
We're excited.
This should be pretty fun.
And I think we need to bring Rachel on here too from our We the People team. Let's get her on board. And there's Rachel.
Hey, Rach.
As I thought about, me and
Hey
Mackay
there.
talked about what's really important for us, and this election coming up is really huge. And I know you guys are all passionate about it. You're on the We the People program, We the People team. But for the rest of us, I'm curious. Only about 19% of ages 18 to 29 vote. And it actually makes about 50% of the eligible voters. How come our youth, our young people don't get engaged in voting? What's up with that?
I guess we can go around, I'll start it off real quick, a little bit from me, because I love hearing myself speak. But from my perspective, it's just not a lot of interest, or not really knowing how to do it or what to do. Last year, I had absolutely no idea how to vote. I didn't truly know how it impacted, how everything worked, what popular vote was, what that popular decision versus, electoral college. I wasn't very educated on it. So it's just that, beginning education, but also I would say, just no interest. I mean, that's just how it is from my own personal knowledge.
How about you other guys?
To kind of chime in on what Makai was saying,
I
believe
would
that
agree. I definitely.
one of the big things for young people, and even myself being not so young anymore, is the issues that are out there. That you start to look at issues, and does that really impact an 18-year-old, a 19, 21-year-old? We go back to maybe 2016, even some of the primaries, and I know there's a huge push for Bernie Sanders when he was saying that, hey, we're talking free college. And that all of a sudden got young people excited and fired up. And I think that he really touched on something there with younger generations that, hey, if I can get this going, and now that's an issue that appeals to me. So just that, maybe to echo Makai's point of issues and how does that impact younger generations?
I'm worried that young people take this privilege of voting for granted. You have to realize that this is an incredible opportunity you have to lean in and really chart the future of our country. And there are many countries that don't have this. And I do think, I always go back to this Benjamin Franklin story, where as he walked out of the Philadelphia Convention, all these people were there, and he came out and he did some version of a woman, said, hey, Mr. Franklin, what kind of a government do you have? And he says, it's a democracy, but now it's up to you to keep it. And that's why all votes, but young votes, are critical, because our democracy is completely dependent upon us voting and leaning in and participating.
That's great. Well, hey, last week we had, last 2 weeks, huge debates, our presidential debate, our vice president debate, and then even our gubernatorial debate. So I'm going to have Mr. Seger. Why don't you talk to us about the presidential debate and kick that one off? What'd you think of the first presidential debate?
Oh, I was bored to death. Not a lot going on. No action. No. No, it was one of those of, if I'm going to be honest, I was disappointed. And I don't want to speak for everybody, but it doesn't matter if you were the Republican or if you're the Democrat, liberal, conservative. I think watching that, both sides walked away going, this is what I got. This is what America has become. I would say the word, if I had to sum it up in one word, would be disappointing. With that being said, though, you've got both sides of, I'm kind of questioning, do we even need debates anymore? If I can log on to a website and find out what that candidate stands for, if I can get on social media and get that information, do we really need that debate back and forth where we put two people up on a stage and have them talk about issues, if that's what it's going to devolve into? I know we had classic debates. You go all the way back to the 60s with Nixon and Kennedy, and that changed people's opinions because you could see them physically on camera, and you never saw that before. But nowadays, with the access you have to different candidates and their stances, I don't know if debates are even needed anymore. What's that,
Well, it doesn't sound like you're going to do another president one. So
right.
Hey, let's jump into Ms. Wulfing. Why don't you talk we had last week the vice presidential debates. And going into this term, whoever becomes president will be the oldest president in the history of the United States. Therefore, the vice presidential debates are very important. What'd you think about what happened last week with that?
They are, even though the vice president, a lot of times we blow it off and think, oh, it's just the vice president. Vice president matters. And just like Mr. Seger, I came out of the presidential debate really disappointed. Actually, the funny thing was we ended up taking the lesson plan we had of watching it and absolutely changing it because it was not an example of civil discourse. And we work really hard at that in our classes. People come in with all these other fantastic divergent opinions, and we want to provide a safe place to discuss hard issues. And that was not a good example. I feel differently about the vice presidential debate. I thought everybody won because I felt like it was, they stuck to the issues. Yeah, they didn't always answer the questions. Yep, it was stressful. Mr. Seger, you didn't talk about the fly?
I was looking at your head real quick and seeing if something had landed maybe on your head. You had two candidates, yes, but then who stole the show? What was everyone talking about? Yeah.
The fly one. But I was impressed with both candidates. They were articulate. I'm not saying I agreed or disagreed, but it was a way more. I'd love to hear what Rachel McKay thought of it, but I thought it was a much better example of civil discourse, even though they have, they do not agree on much, if anything. And the fly was just a great addition to the Republicans. So, anyways.
I thought it was very, very interesting. So for both of the debates, I followed on the New York Times, watch along thing. I had commentary from all these reporters. There's one guy in there, I don't know how he's a New York Times reporter, but he was just joking the whole time. Oh, when that fly came up, I was dying laughing, which I don't feel like I should have been during a vice presidential debate. And then going back to the comment on the oldest presidents, in our history, I feel like just as a student and then also as a person, I never realized how old just the presidents are in general. Like I never think about that. I never really thought. I'm like, oh man, this person is the same age as my great grandmother, and I am not joking. But no, I thought it was a lot better. I'd say I agree with Seger in saying that, the presidential debate was slightly disappointing, not slightly, very disappointing. It was if a train was on the tracks, but tracks didn't exist and that train was sideways. But the vice presidential debate, I do feel is a lot more respectful. And another, just building off of the point of Seger, is do we need debates? Do we need them now? And could we just do social media? And I would just, I would slightly refute that point. I'm not trying to make any kind of debate or anything here, but I mean, if you look at it in the sense of social media, it's tailored. It's tailored to you. I mean, the watcher or anything like this. Like the only reason, like you've heard of this, if you're watching this, is through our school. So you're only going to be seeing our viewpoints through this. And so same thing with social media. I'd say if you're looking at social media for political, knowledge or advice, always be careful in that, because it's going to be tailored to you, whether that's true or false. So be careful, use a lot of different sources in looking at that. What do you think, Rachel, about this vice presidential and presidential debate?
So I disagree with Mr. Seger. I think that we do need the debates, because as much as you want on the site perhaps, but it's interesting to watch them speak and see if they have that ability to articulate their ideas.
Great point.
So I think that really shows maybe how well they would do the job speaking.
Oh, I would agree. And to kind of put what Makai was saying, that I don't know about getting rid of them all together, but you are correct that you do want to see your candidates physically stand there and answer questions. And I think that's why the second one is President Trump was diagnosed with COVID. They're going to do the online kind of Zoom debate, or, I don't promote one over the other. But whatever that might be. But the idea that I want an authentic answer. And I think if we were to do an online debate, you don't know, are you getting the feed from an earpiece, or, is somebody in there kind of coaching you? Either side, and so I do want those authentic answers, and I'd be kind of curious what that looks like moving forward.
The governor, Inslee, if anybody watched it, I don't know if you guys are as nerdy as we are, but the governor, I know you are, Governor Inslee, is it Sheriff Culp, Mike?
It would be Sheriff Lauren Culp from
and so
Eastern
that
Washington.
so that was actually really good, because if anybody watched it or can replay it, the choice was so apparent. And I thought, they were both really authentic, and it was just, you really knew what you got. And without that debate, I would not have understood the difference between the two sides. So I do think debates have an important role, and I think it's important we try to watch them. So.
And I don't want to hijack the conversation on that, but I love the idea of the governor debate, and especially having two young people in the conversation right now, and hopefully more people listening to it. I'm under the impression that the governor's race actually impacts young people more than it would the presidential race or the federal government. Mainly because what happens here in the state of Washington, you're the, quote, laboratory of democracy. And think about what happens in Washington is controlled by the governors. or not just the governors, but Washington, Oregon, Idaho. Those are run by governors. Talk about our mask mandates and what that looks like. Example being California. I'm a huge 49ers fan. When they broadcast that national game, the announcers had to wear masks up in the press box. They broadcast the Seahawks game last night, no mask needed because Washington has a different rule than California does. So you kind of look at this and realize the impact that the governors have on our daily lives versus the federal government, what that looks like overall. So I would encourage people to really take a look at those governor races and maybe even mayoral races, as we get into those. So that's just my kind of 2 cents or 10 cents on that.
Awesome. Hey, we got a question from our viewers out there. Why don't we fire that out and see what you guys think of that? From Flash Brady.
From encouraging more younger people to vote. From me, I'd say what would entice me. First off, I saw a little question earlier in the chat on can you apply to vote before 18? In Washington State, yes, you can. You can pre-register to vote. It's really easy to find. I mean, you can find it on, Instagram, if you're on Instagram, everything, everywhere. That's one really interesting thing is media everywhere is just telling people to vote. So if you follow some of those terms, you follow some of those links, you can get yourself registered. But that's actually one way that we're getting people, more younger people, more encouraged to vote is social media. That's the biggest thing I could just see on my Snapchat, my Instagram. I don't use Facebook too much, but I think on Facebook as well. It's more of a question for, Seger and Wulfing, it's becoming the new MySpace, but
Wow.
but basically just
I call that
presence
ageism.
there.
Keep going. Okay.
that new, put it out through your social media, talk to your friends, talk to your family, because that is where we're looking. Look to those places, and I think that's where we could really encourage more people to vote. What do you think, Rachel, on the younger side of things as well?
Well, so 18-year-olds didn't get the right to vote until 1971. So it's definitely a newer thing for us. And we really have to exercise that because it's that we're doing, and it's going to be us who have to change it if we don't like the way it's going right now. So yeah, it's so easy to get, very easy to vote. So I personally don't see why you shouldn't do it.
And if I could jump in there, Makai, perfect political answer there, not really answering the question that was actually posed of what are the issues? What are the issues that would get young people to get out there and vote? And I think it kind of goes back to maybe that original statement I was saying about Bernie Sanders when it comes to college and, paying for college. What's that look like? You're going to have a lot of people graduating high school, maybe later on mid-20s, first-time home buyers. What does that look like moving forward? What just different questions along those of what are the issues that pull people in to vote has always been the economy and how well, people working and what does that look like? And I think if young people have that for an education or for a job or whatever that looks like, and I don't want to be too Tahoma-ish and say future ready skills, but how does that impact, what are those impacted by the election? Who can happen to that most?
And I want to, go ahead. I just want to throw in there a really cool thing about the state of Washington. So I've lived a couple different places, and when I came to Washington, I am so proud to live here, and there are many reasons. One of the things is that Washington State has passed legislation, and starting when you're 16 years old, you guys, you can register to vote, okay? You can't vote till you're 18, but at 16, you can register, and Mr. Seger, Mr. Storian, and myself, and Ms. Mom, we're all showing our classes how they can get on and how easy it is to register to vote. Washington State also does other things. Like we've done voting by mail for over 10 years. And not only that, we recognize having to put a stamp on that was similar to a poll tax. And so now it's just free. Now you don't even have to put postage on. And so Washington State has also translated their voters pamphlet into many, many languages. And so I feel like for years now, they have tried, it's not partisan. They've tried to make it easy to vote and really understand the power of the young vote. So.
That's great. Well, last question, and then we're going to wrap it up. But there's an initiative called Vote 16, which would move the voting age from 18 down to 16. What do you guys think if we had 16-year-olds voting in national and statewide elections?
Ooh, I'll open this one up again, as the younger one. Well, one of the younger ones here. I may be in AP classes. I may be in We the People. And we have our wonderful government classes at Tahoma. That's not just me saying, Tahoma, yeah, I enjoy the classes, but just from personal drive and knowledge and knowing, I didn't truly know a lot about our political system or anything like that. I mean, I was talking to some freshmen, I think it was about, a month ago. And basically, we were talking, and they didn't know that we had an electoral college. That's that 14 to 13 age range, and it's that gaining all that knowledge in 2 years. So I'd say yes. I mean, we don't have a lot of voter participation already at younger ages, but I'd say leave it there at that 18 because even though it would be nice to get more voices in there, I would say that there's not enough knowledge there to truly, contribute in a way that they actually would want to.
So you'd be a thumbs down, Makai, on 16-year-old vote. Anybody be a thumbs up out there? Nobody.
I would actually almost go, I know 18 is there mainly because, hey, if you can join the military and go off to fight for your country, you should be able to vote for your country. I get that. But part of me kind of going off what Makai is saying is I might not be all opposed to raising the age to 21, getting that out there. And what does that look like where you are more informed what's out there? 16, you're barely getting your driver's license at 16. We don't trust you to drive a car with somebody in your car with you at 16. You got to wait. I don't know why that would be something that, hey, here's the future of our republic is in your hands, 16-year-olds, yet you can't drive with a passenger in your car until 16 and a half, if 17. So just something to think about there that it's kind of a responsibility thing, going back to what Ms. Wulfing says.
Okay, fair enough. Well, hey, guys, I think we're going to wrap up this episode. So I want to thank you all for being here. And I think there's a big message. 16-year-olds can get out there and register to vote. And if you're 18, let's get out and vote. This is a huge election for our state and certainly nationally. And I think the face of America is going to look very different if we don't all get out there and get our voice out there. So let's all participate in democracy. And with that, I'm going to let our guests go. Makai, you and me can wrap it up. But
all righty.
Let's talk about our next episode. We're switching into the quarter, and we got to talk about how do we get books? When do grades come out? All of the things that are the logistics, and that's going to be our next episode. I think it's like the 26th of October. So in a couple of weeks, Makai and I are going to roll out all the stuff you need to know of how you get into your new classes, new Zooms, and all the stuff that's coming up for quarter 2. So Makai, anything else?
If you guys have any questions, I'm pretty easy to reach. As ASB president, love talking to all of you wonderful people. I will, I can probably get social medias out there, but a lot of people know me. So just ask about this name and get in contact with me, and I'd love to answer any questions. But thank you for listening, and that's pretty much all from me, Terry.
All right. Thanks, guys, and go Bears.